Hello everybody, James with Love My Pups, My Breeder Supply. Q&A session for the last few weeks. Okay, so first one is DNA testing, where do you get it done? I go to Animal Genetics out of Tallahassee, Florida. You can Google them. They have coupons every now and then where they reduce prices about 2-3 times a year. Another good place is VetGen, V-E-T-G-J-A-N, VetGen, let's write it down, Vet. I haven't used VetGen, but they have got this new test for what was formerly untestable chocolate. So that if you want to test for chocolate as part of your testing process, probably VetGen. Okay. Somebody's asking about if you got a dog with 2 versions of chocolate, what does it look like? So I've talked about this quite a bit in other videos. There is 2 versions of chocolate. There is what is called testable chocolate, Isabella, and that will come back on a test as BB. And the dog will have a red eye glow. And that is a milk chocolate kind of color. It's lighter than what is untestable chocolate, or used to be untestable. And that dog will come back on a test as BB, but it will have a red eye glow. And if you go to VetGen, it will be little CO, the cocoa test that you can have done for $55 from VetGen. If you have a dog that's got both of these, so that a dog that is BB, and I'm going to call this little CO, that dog will be a different shade. This will be milky, milk chocolate. This will be dark chocolate, and this is somewhere in between, semi-sweet, I don't know what that would be. And shades of all of this vary anyway, because you can have a chocolate dog all the way from a fawn chocolate that looks very, very light. So I think it's very hard to predict exactly what you're going to get, but I can tell you this, typically Isabellas or testable chocolates tend to be a much lighter color chocolate. So if you've got both together, I think you're going to have kind of somewhere in between the two. Somebody has got a Merle dog and they want to know what they have to do to produce Merles. So a Merle dog is, most dogs are that, non-Merle. That sucks, so we're not going to use that pen. Not see that one, let's go with black. So most dogs are MM, not Merle. Merle is a dominant gene, a single copy, just like Brindle is the other one that's like this. A single copy will absolutely show. So a Merle dog is little b, big M, little m. That is a Merle dog. That's a Merle. And this is a double Merle, and this is the one you don't want to do. That's a no-no, because that produces blind and deaf dogs and all kinds of other problems. You don't put Merles with Merles. Actually, maybe you can with what's called a cryptic Merle. I don't know enough about it to talk about it intelligently, but I think you could do it with what's called a cryptic Merle. A cryptic Merle is a Merle that does show up on the test, but physically doesn't look Merle. But anyway, her question is, or their question was, how do you get a Merle? Well, the answer is with a Merle, if you've got a dog that is Merle, little m, big M, little m, and you marry that to a dog that is not Merle, big M, we go to the Punnett square. And here we go. So we've got on top, and on the side the other dog, what do we get? Non-Merle. Non-Merle. Merle. Merle. So you get half Merle and half not Merles. So that's what you do. You simply, this is a great, interesting thing about Merles, is that you can get Merles. If you've got a dog that is a Merle and you put it with a non-Merle dog, on average, half of it will be Merles. They'll be interesting looking dogs. It's because some people hate this idea and don't think we should be breeding Merles, but each to their own. But anyway, that's what you do. So, your answer to that question is, if you've got a Merle dog, breed it to any non-Merle dog, and you'd expect to get a litter of half Merles. Easy. Where do I get the questions for my Q&A sessions? Well, I get them from people asking questions directly on the YouTube channel. I get questions that people call me up and I think, oh, that's something interesting that other people would like to know about. Or I run into problems myself that I then research and hopefully find the solution to and talk about it here. Somebody's talking about their dog had its ears cropped, not a French, it's another kind of dog. It's had its ears cropped, so you know, like a min pin or something. And then next day it developed a cherry eye. This is where you get this red kind of tissue pooching out the corner of the eye. And they want to know if the two are related. The answer is almost certainly not. It's just one of those things. You just got unlucky. Somebody's asking about, I talk about breeding on a progesterone level of 15 nanograms per milliliter. That is the magic number that you AI on. So you AI on this. If you're doing a surgical AI, or even a TCI, transcervical AI, then you AI on more like a 20 to a 28. No, a day later on those. So the question was, what happens if it's 15 nanograms on day 9? This is normally, by the way, this is normally day 11. This is normally day 11 to 13 on an average dog. That's what that is. So they're asking, if it gets that level on day 19, do you still go ahead and do it? Yes. The number of days to get there is not particularly relevant. The physical number, the actual progesterone number of 15, that's what you're looking for. You don't care whether it's a day 8 or it's day 20 or day 15. You want to AI on a 15. That's what you want to do. So the answer to the question basically was, is it okay if you've got a level of 50 at day 19? Absolutely. Not particularly normal, but not particularly unlikely either. Okay, so this is a good question. So people are asking, I've had a number of these questions. So on our heater system, for our whelping system, just to kind of refresh it for those who haven't, or just to remember how it works, here's the tray, the floor of your whelping box. And we then, I want a different coloured pen, I threw the green one away. So we'll just use this black one over here. We'll use the green, we'll use the black one. So this is the tray. What we do is we provide you with a heat tape that goes around the perimeter of that tray that the puppies are on. And the idea behind this is there's heat coming through right around the periphery. And the important reason for this works so well is because, number one, mum's in the middle, she's not getting any extra heat, she hates the extra heat. And number two is, we put a pig rail in the crate above that area. So if you look at the wall, there's a pig rail sits right here, it's coming in and out of the crate. And the tray is right here, and the heat is right underneath that pig rail. So there's a pig rail on top of all of this. The puppies migrate to the heated area because they like it. And now the pig rail protects them from getting squished by mum. And then we have a thermostat, and we set that thermostat to 40 degrees centigrade, which is equivalent to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And people ask, what temperature do the puppies get to? Well, the puppies don't get to 104, because that's too hot for a puppy. But what they do is, the first thing is just like you on a sunny day outside. Your surface that's in the sun is getting nice and warm, and you can feel it. The side that's in the shade is not as warm, but your blood circulates around your body and you're in the comfort zone. And what do? If you're too cold, you go put yourself a jacket on, and if you're too warm, you move into the shade. Well, it's exactly the same thing here. A puppy may find they really like it right on top of this heated area here, and they may be a little bit too warm. What you'll find is a puppy will be like this, where it'll be partially on and partially off it. Just like you in bed, you know, you get too hot in bed, you stick a leg outside the covers. Puppies do the same thing. So the absolute temperature is not so critical. What we want to do is we want to make sure that it's warm enough that heat can flow from the floor into the puppy. So a puppy's temperature is something around 95, 98 degrees. You've got to have a warmer surface in the puppy, otherwise heat doesn't flow into the puppy. So that's why we set the temperature at 140 degrees. It's hotter than the puppy, so the idea is heat will flow from the warm floor into the puppy, and then the puppy will self-regulate itself by simply moving around a little bit to be directly on the heat or slightly off the heat. So the absolute temperature is not really critical. Somebody from Europe is asking about what the hell are cc's and mils? Well, cc's are cubic centimeters, and milliliters are thousandths of a cc, thousandths of a litre. So it turns out that 1 cc in volume is equal to 1 milliliter. You can put either cc's or milliliters, they mean the same thing. One of them is a weight, and the other one is a volume, but it's, well, no, they're both volumes, I'm sorry, I'm talking rubbish. But they're basically equivalent to each other. And that brings up another interesting thing, something that you've got to be very careful about, is this units that you measure things in. So, you know, when you measure in ounces, typically we measure in ounces for a puppy. We have an 8-ounce puppy. Well, 1 ounce is equal to 28 grams. So if you want to know the weight of an 8-ounce puppy, you've got to multiply 8 by 28, and I can't do that in my head very well, but it's going to be about 210 grams. So you can convert easily, and if you're not sure about this, just put into your smartphone, convert ounces to grams, and the calculator will pop up and you can work it out immediately. Another place you absolutely can trip up on this is that the majority of vets read progesterone levels in nanograms per milliliter. That should be a little m, per milliliter. Now, some machines measure in nanomoles per litre. And so it's a completely different system. This number here, you've got to divide by 2, well, divided by 3 is close enough to get to this. So if somebody says, oh, it's at a 30, make sure what units you're in, because if you're in nanomoles per milliliter, you've got to divide that by 3, that's a 10. Huge, huge, huge difference. So these days, I always ask somebody what kind of machine have they got, so that I can find out what they are being told the progesterone level is, because you can actually trip up on that one. Somebody's asking, what will they get if they put a pied with a lilac and tan? Well, can't answer that question, because pied has got nothing to do with lilac and tan. They're completely different genes. So the pied gene is either SS pied, NS pied carrier, or NN no pied. So this is no pied, this is a pied carrier, and this is a pied dog. So let's just investigate this with a Punnett square. If you take a pied dog, there it is, and you breed that with a pied carrier, and there that is, what do you get? You get pied dogs, and you get half not pied carriers. If you put a pied dog with a non-pied dog, my pen is running out, with a non-pied dog, what do you get? You get all pied carriers, none of them will be pied. So the answer to this question was, what happens if you put a pied dog with a lilac and tan? It depends whether the lilac and tan has a copy of pied. If it has a copy of pied, half the puppies are pied. If it doesn't have a pied gene at all, then they're all pied carriers. None of them will physically look pied. So, all right, next question. Somebody gave me some genetics here on a dog, and they made a statement, and I'm just going to put it up on the screen. I don't remember exactly why they were asking this question. It may have been a follow-up from a previous one, but this is what the dog was. So this dog was little e, KBR, KN, one copy of Brindle. AY, carries the genetics for fawn. SN carries a copy of pied. Big L, little l, a fluffy carrier. So, what is this dog? Well, this dog can be a fawn. We're not told anything about blue or chocolate, so we're just going to assume it's neither of those things. This dog has a copy of Brindle, and a copy of Brindle wipes out the ability for it to show fawn, so it will not look fawn. It's a pied carrier, so it won't be show pied carrier, so it will not show pied. It's a fluffy carrier, so it won't be fluffy, but it's a carrier, so it has the capability of having fluffy puppies. Here's the important one, cream. And cream trumps everything. Cream dogs like white paint. That will be a cream dog. Now, this is actually, I think I wrote this down wrong because I think they said it was a pied actually. I think they said this was a pied dog. We're just going to say this was pied. So that is a pied. So it's a cream pied. And so cream covers everything up. I'm not really quite sure about how pied and cream work together because I've seen different expressions of it. I think typically what you'll see is a cream, well, I'm not even going to answer the question. Typically cream covers everything and I'd expect this to be a cream dog. It might show some pied somewhere, but I suspect not. Anyway, I'm kind of a bit muddled up on that answer. Someone's breeding a brindle to a pure white dog, what will I get? Well, so brindle, remember brindle is, let's be N, let's call it like that. Brindle is a dominant gene. If you've got a dog that has a copy of brindle, KBRN, bred to a non-brindle dog, then you will get, half the dogs will have a copy and show brindle. So there it is. N, no brindle, no brindle. So the first thing is if you're breeding a brindle dog, now they say it's a white dog. In a Frenchie, a white dog would in fact probably be an extreme pied, and so we just don't know. We don't know what other colours are there, so we can't even answer this question. If it was a cream dog, which could look white, then it wouldn't be pure white because creams don't come in pure white. But if it was a white dog and the other dog had a copy of white, then half the dogs would be white. I've got a 16-month-old boy who's a stud dog. He has hooked up and performed once, but he won't do anything now. What do I need to do? This is an interesting question. I get this quite a bit. So somebody's got a dog they want to use as a stud dog, and he's not doing what you need him to do it the day that you need it done. So what do you do about this? Well, a number of things. The first thing is don't rely on the dog to perform for the first time the day that you actually need him. Try pulling from him a month beforehand. Pull from him every week. Get him in the habit of what the heck's going on. That's the first thing. Get him used to the fact that this is an enjoyable experience and he will produce for you on basically demand, as opposed to all of a sudden just looking at you like, what are we doing here, dude? Practice with your dog. Don't practice with your dog the day before you need it because you just diluted your dog down. Practice with your dog a week before, 2 weeks before, a month before, and see whether he'll produce for you. The next thing is the dogs, the boy dogs who are running around with girl dogs all the time, they kind of like us running around with our sisters and our cousins. We don't muck around with our sisters and our cousins, and they don't either. They're too familiar. So if you're in this situation where you've got a dog, a boy dog, a stud dog, and you're going to breed him to another of your females, and they're in the same household, separate them. Put him in the garage. Keep him away. Don't let him hear, smell, sniff, see, run around with any of the other female dogs. Keep him away, and then the day you want this to happen or the day you're going to practice, put them together, and I bet you get a hugely different response. So familiarity doesn't help in terms of breeding. You want to separate the dogs so you generate some interest. And this works. This really works. Somebody's asking about our small incubator or our incubators, and they're saying, telling us to set the temperature to 40 degrees. By the way, all of ours read in centigrade. 40 degrees centigrade, that is 104 Fahrenheit. But the manual, the Merrick manual, the doggy manual says the temperature of puppies should be more like 90 degrees for an incubator. What the heck are we doing? Well, the answer is that our incubator works rather differently than a regular incubator. A regular incubator is a box with typically a glass door on the front of it, and it typically has a fan on this, one of the walls, there's a fan. I'll draw a fan here. Not a very good fan. And some kind of heat element. Here's the heater element. And it blows hot air into this space. And then it has a thermostat that then turns off this fan so that it can regulate the temperature to 90 degrees Fahrenheit on the inside. Right, great, okay. So, what's wrong with that? No, it works fine. There are some things that are wrong with this, by the way, that I don't like. The first thing is it dries the air out. You've got air coming in, it cooks that air, it really drops the humidity. And typically in situations with a regular incubator, you need a humidifier. And the next problem is there are a couple of things about this that absolutely can go wrong. the fan can get stopped working, and that makes the whole thing shut down. And typically this heater element is a light bulb, and the light bulb burns out, and you don't have a heat source. So that is the normal way of doing it. Our incubator is very different. The first thing is that I should have one. I do have one here. Here we go. Got two different versions. So here's our incubator. So the difference between this incubator, there is no air movement inside here at all. There's no air movement in there's a red pen. There's no air movement inside here at all. So we're not blowing air in here and taking air from outside, drying it out, and then blowing it back out of a vent. And the heater element is buried underneath the floor. The puppies can't get to it. This is hermetically sealed. You can put bleach in here. There's no holes or openings. So the heat comes up through the floor, and then there's a thermostat up front where you can control the temperature. And by the way, this plugs into 12 volts DC, so you have an adapter that it comes with to plug it in at your household current, or you can plug this directly into your car cigarette lighter adapter. So it's now portable. But the important thing about this is that this heats the puppies up by a conduction from underneath. And so I'm going to draw this. So what we have is basically a container, and under the container, in that layer of insulation below that, there's a heater element right there. And what happens is that this now heats up this floor. It doesn't heat up the whole space. So the floor becomes warm. So a puppy laying in here, and here's a lousy depiction of a puppy, the puppy laying in here gets heat by coming up through the floor. We've got to have this temperature warmer than the puppy, otherwise heat doesn't flow into the puppy, and that's why we set it to 104. 104 just feels mildly warm. Typically we'll put a towel down in there as well, or a pee pad, but the whole point of this is that this whole thing is not heating the air up, it's just heating the floor up, and that's why we set that temperature to that. So there's a lid on this thing, and then there's a vent hole in the top of it, so there's a vent. So any heat, unnecessary heat can basically escape and get fresh oxygen in. So rather a different system, and because of that, we set the thing to 104 degrees, not the 90 degrees that the American manual suggests. My female gets angry when she's mated with a male. Well, this is kind of like human beings when we say no means no, isn't it? So there's the right time to be breeding a dog and the wrong time to be breeding a female. So the right time to be breeding a female is the point that she will stand there, what's called standing heat, and allow the dog to mount up on her back and not be aggressive towards the dog. If your female is being aggressive towards the male, the most likely scenario is you're either breeding too early or too late. So you should have started this process before this day to see what the behavior of the dogs are, so you can see this reception of the female to the male is getting more relaxed as the few days go on. It starts off, they'll run around, she won't let him hardly sniff on her. She'll run around to stop a little bit and sniff on his back end. A few days later, she'll stand there and kind of twitch her tail off to the side and let him really, smell and lick her, but not get up on her back. She walks away, maybe turns around and growls at him. And then there's the day that she absolutely stands there and just lets him get on with it. If the dog is screaming, the female is screaming, probably too early or too late. A couple more questions to go. Umbilical hernias, are they serious? No, they are not. Umbilical hernias are where the navel itself has got a little bit of a stretched area and a little bit of the gut is pooching out. Not physically so you can see it, but you can see it under the skin. I have a hernia. I'm 65, I have a hernia. It developed in the last 4 years. I'm not going to do anything about it. It's not a problem. So umbilical hernias, typically they're not hereditary. You don't have to worry about them unless they get to the point where you can see there's a big loop of intestine coming through that hole under the skin. That needs to be fixed. So in females that are going to be bred, you typically wait till they have their first C-section, and if they're going to have a C-section, you fix it then. If you're going to fix it because it's concerning, typically you want to wait till the dog is 6 months old, but this does not affect the ability to breed that dog. And lots of times umbilical hernias happen because there's roughhousing going on, or somebody has been a little bit careless when the dogs got the placenta still attached and they've allowed the placenta to tear that umbilical cord a little bit. An inguinal hernia is a rather different situation. An inguinal hernia is, we're looking at we've got a puppy that we're holding up like a baby. And here are its legs sitting down here. Here are the legs of the dog. What a terrible drawing. I'm not an artist. Okay, so here's our dog. And an inguinal here, you will see in this area right here, right where the groin is, where the groin meets the thigh, that area there, you'll see kind of a little wormy looking bulge. And you'll be able to tell it's an umbilical hernia because, and I'm going to do a whole video on this, but the umbilical hernia, if you push it in with your finger, it disappears. If you bounce the puppy, it pops back out again. That's an inguinal hernia. That is an inguinal, I think I spelled it wrong, an inguinal hernia. That one there, you will need to fix it at some point, and that one, you do not breed those dogs because there is a hereditary trait. And you can have either a single hernia on one side or what's called bilateral, having on both sides. That one probably needs to be fixed, and you probably don't want to breed the dog. My dog had a false pregnancy. When will she be ready to breed again? Well, whether she had a false pregnancy or not, the cycle is always the same. So here is a quick graph here. First heat, day 0, first signs of blood. The whole process stops with a whelp or the end of pregnancy, and that happens typically about 70 days later, about 9 weeks. It doesn't matter whether that dog, the progesterone level slowly goes up, rises up, stays up, and drops back down. This is progesterone on the side here. It doesn't matter whether your dog it was bred or not, it goes through the cycle. An intact female, one that has not been spayed, will have a rise in progesterone, and the progesterone level will stay high for the entire time. So it doesn't matter whether it's a false pregnancy or not. Basically, from first sign of heat to the time that whole thing finishes is 70 days, and time between this and the progesterone level drops down, stays down for quite some time, another couple of months, and then it rises up and the whole thing starts again. That process there, in most dogs, is 6 months. Not all dogs. Some dogs it's 5 months, some dogs it's a year, but most dogs it's 6 months. So the answer is, she will start a cycle again, typically 6 months after you saw the first one. Oh my God, I got a whole bunch of questions on the back side. I'm going to do this on another video, it'll be too long otherwise. Alright, so thanks for watching. I'm going to do another video, another Q&A right after this, so there'll be more stuff. Got any questions, worries, concerns, things we've got wrong? You like us, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to us. You think we're idiots, let us know. Thanks for watching. Be nice to your doggies. Bye, everybody.